Well, hi, and welcome to our Tapped In Talent live stream show. Uh, so, today we're coming to you from South Africa and from Australia to talk about Tapped In Talent. Angelique and I are going to, just talk about Tapped In Talent. So, shall we get started?
Yes, Michael. Hi, everybody.
So, maybe let's start, Angelique, if you want to just take this off, take it away, and talk about. You came up with the original idea and said, "Hey, we need a new personnel firm or a work firm." Um, so let's start with the right question.
Yeah.
So let's start here, Angelique. You at some point we started talking. You had this a brilliant idea. So take us away. Why tapped in talent?
Such a good question, Michael. Thank you. So what we originally discussed was that we find that people are working today in a certain environment, but they feel stuck because they're not totally happy, but because their lives are so busy and they don't feel like they have the tools. They feel like they don't have a way to get out of their current work situation and do something that they love. So they're basically just working for their daily bread, or they're just working to, um, you know, um, to exist, but they're not really thriving, they're not happy. So we discussed this thing, and then we said, okay, so it would be really nice if we had this idea that we can help people to get to the point where they can do the work that they really want to do, that they can that we can show them that they have options, we can show them that there is another way. For example, I will give one short example here. I know someone that we've become friends, but so she works in South Africa, but she's originally from Zimbabwe, and so what happens for her is her children are in Zimbabwe and she only gets to see them once a year. So once a year she goes home to see her kids. And I asked her about this, and I was like, so what's the plan? How? And she was like, this is life. So she is
Mm,
obviously, who wants to live like that? But she
yeah.
doesn't feel like she has any options. So that's really what Tap in Talent would, one of the things we will tackle at the core is to show people, employees, who we will be calling talent, to show them that there is really another way. There is, even if you feel like you're stuck, you are not stuck. There is another way, but they need access to, be shown in different ways. So that's the one thing that we want to do. The other idea that we have is to um, place our talent inside of a corporation and change the corporate culture from the inside out. So that's the other idea. We can touch on that more if you want to. But so the name Tapped in Talent, which has basically meant that if our talent will be tapped into like a higher consciousness. So we're supplying 5D employees, 5D staff, people that know that they manifest their reality, people that know how to keep a frequency. So they're tapped in all the time. And so, naturally we called it tapped in and then talent, since we're not, we're moving away from the employee idea as we are moving away from harmony to hierarchy, which I know you would love to get into at a stage. But yeah,
The
so
other
as
way
we're
around,
moving
though.
away from, sorry, from hierarchy to harmony, I'm so sorry. As we're moving away from that, we're not going to have employees. The future doesn't have employees. The new world that we're building doesn't have employees. So they're talent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so to add to that, Angelique, when you first tapped on my shoulder and said, "Hey, I've got this idea with this work." That's why I was so immediately enthusiastic because you were sort of describing my life story. When I had the good fortune of having an early career that made me see the world, let me see different cultures around the place, and but after 15 years at the top of the business world in analytics and performance management, which is sort of corporate speak for manifestation, I'd seen enough of just the constant pursuit of wealth and control. And so I essentially, like quite a while ago in 2007, I abandoned that corporate life in search of deeper meaning. And it's taken me that long to actually come up with the ideas on how this might work. And then when you showed up and said, "Hey, what about this? Do you think this could work?" I immediately thought it was like a tremendous opportunity to help people slowly gain awareness through a process, which we'll talk about a bit later. But we immediately looked at, there's the clear distinction now in the world today is we're all evolving with consciousness, and there are a lot of questions that are still unanswered by yesterday's organizations. So the notion of shifting as a species from hierarchical ways of organizing ourselves in institutions, in corporations and governments, we've already seen that shift in the last 10 years. So aspects of like Bitcoin and Airbnb and Uber are all sort of tenets of organizations that are more founded on the principle of sharing, where market supply and demand are actually sharing their resources, and the assets by which they do that are not necessarily owned by that corporation. So, Airbnb and Uber, they own the platform, but we really don't need a hierarchical organization any longer in the future. So, and those organizations are now appearing to actually lower the cost structures. And so, in 2012, before I was still a fierce skeptic of anything spiritual or psychic, I started getting interested in blockchain technology, and I guess intuitively knew that the whole world would start to decentralize, to start operating from a heart-centered network perspective rather than a hierarchical perspective. And now you can sort of clearly see that any sort of hierarchy is intrinsically built on the concept of fear of missing out. So nobody wants to be at the bottom of the hierarchy because that's hard work and for very little reward. But to be at the top of the hierarchy is dangerous as well because you might lose that spot. As a CEO, you typically only have a short time spent to live. And so if we stay in that fear-based way of organizing, everybody loses. And now we start seeing that. So we have inequality on wealth inequality, political inequality, social inequality, sexual, gender inequality. There's all sorts of levels by which we can see inequalities, and yet, if we were to organize from a principle of love, from a heart-centered principle around topics, i.e., like it could be any enterprise, it could be education, it could be water, it could be energy. We are working together to advance consciousness around those topics, and naturally, what we're essentially doing is a giant puzzle we're starting to solve together in the interest of our own children and future generations. Because the toxicity that's been creeping into our hierarchical structures, nobody wants that for their children. So that's sort of where it was immediately obvious that it's invariably the whole world is going to have to make that change. But the change isn't necessarily coming from the people that are currently in these positions of power and authority. Because the system on a relative basis still works for them. So they're holding on for dear life. But we're starting to see the shift. It's sort of undeniable now. So, all right, well, that's a good way to sort of explain why we actually started this idea. So the second question that we probably should talk about is why are we different from any other management consulting firm or executive search or recruitment firm or a firm that tries to aspire to do career management? What differentiates us? Do you want to start with that one, Angelique?
Yeah, because like this is like really the part that I'm so excited about is because how we're different essentially is that we are the architects of the new world, and no management consultant firm or recruitment company out there can call themselves architects of the new world. So that's like the first thing on how we're different. And then so they also cannot say that they supply you from like a recruitment aspect. They cannot say that they supply you or their MO is to supply you with high vibing master manifestors that come into your office and change the frequency. We all know we all know that, and we have seen it, like we that work with this, we have seen that the frequency that you're at, the vibration level that you're at, your thoughts, those things influence your day-to-day life. It influences what happens around you. It influences short term, it has a long-term influence. So we have seen that as we work with this. So imagine the power that we are putting in the hands of corporations or CEOs or business owners when we plug these high vibing 5D talent into their office. People that are, no matter what the situation looks like around them, they are focused on the goal. They can hold the frequency in the office, they can hold the vibration, and it's also very contagious. So nobody can say, no current staffing agency can say this is what they're doing. And do you want to elaborate on the the other aspect of it for?
Yeah,
Uh,
I can definitely jump in. So I think the difference is as easy as dark and light. It's like night and day. It's like we either organize for the past, which is what we've all been doing
mm,
until now.
yeah.
Just in the way that we even hire or attract people, the way that we fill our board positions, we don't think differently about the structure of the system. We just keep doing the same thing in the hope that we find better people. But we still ask for a resume, and we still we interrogate someone's past, not recognizing that that person may have changed, or that that person might need that role to pay the mortgage and send their kids to school, but
Mm,
their hidden talents are somewhere else.
yeah.
And I think from my own perspective is I you know after a career where I was accomplished as a CFO, and being able to help an organization grow from a couple of 100 million to over 5 billion in sales and hugely profitable, we that was unfulfilled in some ways. It was like, okay, well, we've done that 15 years.
Mm,
I don't want to do that again. And I invariably I sort of took the plan was I was going to take 6 months off work and then find something new to do. That 6 months turned into 3.5 years. Now, luckily, I was privileged to be able to do that, but that changed me. I
mhm,
went to a different location where much more grounded in earth and nature with different people around me. I threw away my BlackBerry at the time, and I started going out of my surfboard in the morning, asking, how am I going to define success now in the rest of my life? Now that I've walked away from corporations,
mhm,
and that was a really difficult quest, is to figure out, okay, well, if I had one measure of success, like a new KPI for the rest of my life, it would be service. So I actually I was headhunted into a role with the government, which ended up being a mistake because there I learned what's really going on. But it has informed what we're doing now together, and that's looking towards light. So there's still we have amazing technology, but very few people are happy. People are unfulfilled at work. There are more people alone now than there were in relationships, in happy relationships, and it is because this massive shift that was bound to happen, where we move away from organizing for the past in masculine oriented dominance hierarchies, where everybody competes for the last dollar of profit,
mhm,
and we're shifting towards this feminine attribute of oneness and of creativity. So we can't keep hiring for the past if we're not recognizing creativity outside of constraints. And
yeah.
that was really the trigger for me when you came along and said, "Hey, tapped in." To be tapped in, what does that mean? It means to be able to be free to think without limitations. And there's examples of people that we all know, Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. They seem to be incredible geniuses, but that's exactly what they're doing. They've developed this reality distortion capacity where they just ignore everything that exists. And so, what are we really trying to achieve here? And so, for me, the contrast between and why we're so different is that a lot of organizations are still looking backwards, but I have no idea where the future is going. And having sort of started to develop psychic abilities over many years, because this is not something you can pay Anthony Robbins $1,000 and go to a seminar, and the next day you're a psychic. That's not how that works. You need to go through a lot of inner work and see the world as a mirror, And when you then
Yeah.
see that, you can start helping others because you're more happy yourself, and you can speak with confidence about, hey, I can see things differently. And there's a few questions that simply don't make sense. And
Yeah.
those questions arise in the financial world, even within the world of work at large, and in health, and in education, that we were still holding on to a past that is clearly no longer working for the vast majority of people. So that's sort of why our process is different. We come at it from a different angle. We start with the concept of love. We're not trying to fight the old system. We're simply trying to create together a new paradigm by which we can work, and it's an exciting and happy sort of way of working. We don't start with anxiety and fear and all these, and we don't suggest any of that. And we have the system. So since the advent of blockchain technology, the fact that we're a million miles, thousands of kilometers apart, and we have technology now that we can just connect each other and find each other,
Yeah.
and start talking about solutions that are credible, is amazing. So sort of let's then take it to the next question. Is like, what if we what is this new idea? Who's this actually for? Who is our ideal client?
Do you want to go first on that?
I'm happy to go first. So in my mind, it started out being everyone. So it's like,
Mm.
uh, I feel like, now that you've been thinking about this for a little while, it's to me, it's like, if I can codify the experience that I went through and take away the failures and the trauma and the time that it took me to become more aware and to really start challenging everything that I ever believed in from childhood. And that's how far back we have to go. There's certain things that are programmed in us that are actually in the data, where the location of our birth, the time of our birth. And so with the technology we have today, we can go back. And so I've learned things from using, for instance, AI effectively, things that I wish I knew when I was 12. And I can now do that in under a minute. I can prepare a 25-page report that would help a young child making better decisions, and thereby not. And now Angelique has disappeared again. Little pause. I'll edit that out. Let's put you back where you were.
So sorry. So
Where was
sorry.
that?
My phone's
Let's
in.
just keep
Let's go
going. You
into
all
it
right?
later. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, with today's technology, it's just incredible how we are able to accelerate the pace at which we learn and to make it more tailored to our soul, which is something we were not taught in our generation of adults. We have the body, the mind, and the soul, but for some reason, nobody's really asked deep into the soul. There's a few people, and there's
Mm.
books written about it, but now. Much like we're using emotional intelligence, we're now going to use creator intelligence. So when we started by saying, to work without constraints is to really be aligned with who you are as a person, and for that you got to transcend your mind-made ego, which we all have, and that takes hard work because you have to also face your shadow, which we also all have. I'll be the
Mm.
first to admit it was not an easy process, but now that we exist, we can navigate, we can help others to become co-creators or co-architects of the new world we're heading into. And I can say with much confidence, there's not a doubt in my mind that this is actually happening. People like us are starting to find each other online. It's much easier these days. And let's face it, it's we don't go swimming in sewage. So why would we keep working in toxic bureaucracies? That's sort of
Exactly.
the question.
Yeah.
So and that's what is in
Exactly.
it for them. We can start um, eradicating all the toxicity, including the mental, the spiritual, the in the psyche of everything that we do as a species, really worldwide. So it's an exciting, very exciting path that we're on.
Yeah, that is. And I just want to elaborate some on what you said. So as to who do we serve? So for me, like my personal capacity, when I'm doing things, it's always like orientated towards the planet, you know, helping our planet. Not that it needs our help, but it in a way it needs our help to
Yeah,
get back to balance because it's out of whack because of what's going on. I'm not going to go into all of that negativity, but so ultimately, that's for me. That's like my motivation. But to say how do we get there is to get the the humans that are occupying this space, to get them to be in a place where they are aware of the role that they're playing and
yeah,
the fact that they're not everything that you do has an effect on this
yeah.
place and other places. So to get them to the point where they realize that your actions are important, it carries consequences, not just for yourself, for others. But where am I going with this is I want to say that the other thing that is important in to change to bring to light and to show is the fact that we are not in competition. There isn't competition between you and someone else and between the next person. So when we get away from this competition mindset, then when we're no longer in competition, it's going to eliminate a lot of the waste that we are doing because now people would mass produce something and produce in surplus because they want to be able to make maximum revenue on sales. But when we are no longer in competition, corporations and those things, people that are manufacturing, they can work together in synergy, right? So
Yeah.
they can then eliminate waste because you're not competing anymore. It makes perfect sense in my mind. I can elaborate if it doesn't completely make sense. But since you're working out together in synergy, you don't have to mass produce, you don't have to overproduce. So we also can eliminate a lot of the waste because as it is, there's currently a lot of waste going on.
Huh.
Fashion, etc. So I'm not going to go into that. But so for me, this competition aspect is also one thing. So if we get rid of that and we get to the mindset where people are like, we're one, we're all one. There's no reason for me to compete with someone else. There's no reason for me to take from someone else and think that I'm doing better, or if someone else gets something, I'm missing out. Something like that. If we get to that stage, we are ultimately get to a stage where we are better custodians of this
Yeah.
place that we're living on, and ultimately that serves our our purpose to make this place, or my purpose, shall I say, to make this place back, to turn it back to balance.
Yeah, very well said. So it's the principle of if you come from a place of love, and that's why we're not troubled to use a sentence as provocative as to work like God.
Yeah.
And whoever your God is, or whatever the highest belief system is that you can sort of wrap your head around on this earth, if you sort of embody what that means, a place of unconditional love, if that's what we're working towards unity and oneness, then who are we to compete with one another? That's by definition divisive. So we so from a differentiation point of view, uh, tapping talent is never going to sell anything. There's no point. We don't need to. We're peerless, and we work on like an opposite basis, almost like a donation basis, or you know um, a way of sort of including everyone at any level of income into the mix and helping people to see the light. That if we started working from a place of love together, we'll create better versions of Uber and Airbnb, and we will displace. So we don't have to fight the past. We don't have to fight the management consultants of the past, or the governments or the institutions, because that
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be coming from a place of love. But what we must do is to shine a light on situations where performance can be improved.
Yeah.
And we all know, like, as long as we're organized in nation states, and every nation state has its own way of registering road cars, or to levy taxes on its
Mm-hmm.
citizens. None of that's
Mm-hmm.
necessary.
Yeah.
If we just thought of a global best practice, which some major corporations are showing us, we have big tech that is able to run computer systems such as this one we are using, but you only have to look at Facebook or YouTube or Netflix or LinkedIn to know that these are global networks that work. You can live stream, you can video, you can share information, you can talk to people, you can connect. So why don't we use such a system for our governance? And that's sort of the idea of vote holder that I once came up with a long time in the past, with the knowledge that that's obviously where everything is heading. And
Yeah.
so it's easy to sort of stay stuck and say, no, it can't happen because of the government. But essentially, if you sort of see hierarchies that were here before we were born as things that cannot be changed, yeah, then we'll never get there. But I think if we wanted to give it our best shot to unite humanity, then now is the time. We've got plenty of awareness. We've got plenty of smart people that want to work together. And also the big thing is in our relationships. So if we stay at the level of identity and ego, and we keep wearing the mask just because it's comfortable, then we stay in a transactional state, and that's sort of what we desperately need to get out of. We need to transcend the transaction and not go to work because then we immediately have this master slave relationship. So if we can work on an equal footing with a fair share that we mutually agree on, which is sort of the principle behind blockchain technology, programmable money essentially, and we start adopting to those systems, which we have all the technology and we can start this very small. We don't need to immediately take over the world. We can start in our local community, and it doesn't matter if it's a bridge club or anything else like a business. We have the systems now to start organizing around the principles of love. And the more we do that, the more people will start becoming magnetized and attracted to it. So that's why, yeah, exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is really exciting. It's exciting times, and I get also that normally people are, or some people can be averse to the idea of one government and living under one umbrella, everybody the same, like maybe like a cookie cutter situation. I get that people can be afraid of that, but that situation can be both good and bad. And if we just leave it, because it is coming, if we just leave it up to the current governments and the current leaders and the current they that we always refer to, who
Yeah,
everybody knows who they are, but nobody mentions them. If we just leave it up to them, that's where we're going to go. It's going to be a nefarious system where you're going to be controlled. It's going to be like China. The world will be like China. But if we, as the inhabitants of this plane, say we don't want to do this, we are we understand it makes sense. It makes sense to live like that, but we want to do it from a place of love. We want to accomplish it from a place where we're equal, where there are no elites, for example. Then we steer that process.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard. There's a lot of people are, and I was the same not long ago, so programmed with
Yeah.
societal expectations masquerading as fear that you
Mm-hmm.
have to do that, you have to be there. Like I'm a former CFO, and now I'm doing all sorts of other things that have nothing to do with that, and I call it growth and awareness. But it's really around be the change you want to see in the world, and we
Mm-hmm.
can so easily do that now. So um, all right, well that's a great introduction. So thanks, Angelique, and thanks for everyone for joining. And we mean what we say. So if you as we're getting started, feel free to connect with us. We have an offer that's running down your screen for 30 minutes. Happy to have a chat on a donation honesty based system. And we're happy to provide psychic career management advice. And for businesses that are interested in or organizations, that doesn't have to be a commercial enterprise. Any organization that's interested to learn more, we will be doing more of these videos. But please call on us. We'd love to come and talk and bring your biggest questions because there are going to be answers if we work together. We can start teaching each other what it's like to work from a place of love without having any of yesterday's constraints putting obstacles or roadblocks in front of us.
Yeah.
So with that,
Definitely.
oh,
Thank
sorry,
you.
yeah, you go.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you setting up this software for us. And I just want to say the last thing. I pitched this idea to a few people, and they were like, nobody like really grabbed onto it, but you did. So the idea that I'm getting with this is like you're at the right level of frequency, and I think it's good that we continue with this way that we're doing it. So thank you for saying
Uh,
yes.
yeah, no, it's my pleasure. I'm actually having fun thinking about where this where we're heading. It's just going to be so exciting, and yeah. So with that, we'll leave it at that, and hope for you to join us in our community.